Welcome back to a new episode of Eerie Theory. I'm your host, Ashley, and today is a toughie. I'll just be honest with you guys. This is a true crime episode, so it is going to go right into murder, rape. So this is your warning now. If those things are triggering, come back next week. We'll be talking about conspiracy theories. So this one is a real toughie, and I'm just going to hop right into it because it sucks. Let's just be honest. He sucks. So the baseline killer, baseline rapist was an Arizona local. And if you were in Arizona or just had the news on it anytime during 2005, 2006, you probably heard about this case because his crimes were anywhere from a few days apart to, I think the longest I saw was almost 2 weeks apart. So these were pretty consecutive. So the police were definitely on the lookout, trying to find this man and trying to end this crime spree, because that's exactly what it was. It was just a spree and a very senseless one. And I will be posting pictures of the victims on Instagram later. So we'll give them a face, we'll give them a name. But this will mainly be focused on this killer. So that would be Mark Goudeau, and I'll give you a history on him in just a second. But like I said, he was linked to 9 murders, 15 sexual assaults, 11 kidnappings, and he was reported to be a light-skinned black male wearing various disguises such as wigs, hats, glasses, Halloween masks, and also impersonating homeless men or drug addicts in the area, which would allow him to approach these women with their guard down, thinking, they're just living their normal everyday life. They did not expect this, of course, and he took advantage of that vulnerability. So who is he? Let's just get into that. So Mark Goudeau was born in 1964 in Phoenix, Arizona, to Willie and Alberta Goudeau. He was the second youngest of 13 children, and he was described as fairly normal throughout high school, good at sports, played football. He did not graduate, though, due to not enough credits. His father, Willie, was described as strict but peaceful only by one sibling. Only by one. Yep. The rest of them described him as strict, verbally abusive, and an alcoholic. So take what you will from that. I'm going to go with most of the siblings' description of strict, verbally abusive, alcoholic. Seems to be winning. Alberta died in 1976 when Goudeau was only 12 years old. And all in all, like I said, he seemed to be normal. So I don't know what the trigger was, and I don't know that we will ever know. But yeah, right after his, not graduating, the crime started, like within the same year. So November 7th, 1982, he and one of his brothers were arrested for raping a young woman, but no charges were ever pursued, unfortunately. But yeah, 1985, he was actually somewhat recently linked to this case. It was a cold case for so many years, where a young woman, 22 years old, was abducted at gunpoint, and they did find DNA. But of course, during that time, if you know, the 80s were not a good time. DNA testing was just a baby, just an infant. So it became a cold case and was only linked to him via DNA back in 2016, and it was sent out for testing in 2013. So there is some backup, of course, and there are places you can donate to help with the cost of DNA testing, and I highly recommend you do. I will definitely post some links to some of the places you can donate, because these tests take years, and especially for cases where they happened back in the 80s or previously, they're just waiting. There's DNA, but it's just waiting to be tested. So like I said, I'll post links. Anyways, continuing with this. So 1987, he was arrested for trespassing. 1988, a DUI. August 1989, he was charged with abducting a woman, brutally raping and bludgeoning her. Well, he claimed that she willingly had oral sex with him, but, she was raped and assaulted by two other men who he could not describe. He could not say who they were or where they came from. Just, it was almost all them. But with me, she was willing. Yeah, no, that's not even a good story. God. Like I said, he's a gem of a human being. So this continued. He was actually sentenced to 15 years for the abduction and another 21 years for another robbery that he committed in 1990, which, why did he get more years for the robbery? I really can't answer that. I wish I knew. But he only served 13 of those, and he was described as a model inmate and was released early. He was paroled quickly in 2004 and moved into a house not far from the baseline killer crime area with his wife, Wendy Carr. Yeah, he went into jail at 18, right? 18? No, early 20s. So I couldn't find much on Wendy. But I can only assume she was possibly a prison groupie, which that's a whole different disturbing conversation that I'm not going to get into in this episode. But ew, come on. No, you can do better than a guy in prison, ladies. Come on. Yeah. Anyways, his neighbors all knew that he had served time, but I really hope they didn't know what for, because they all described him as a likable guy, just a pillar of the community, like they normally do. Just a pillar. Red flag. But within a year, all these crimes, the baseline killer crimes, started. So they started in 2005. Remember, he was paroled in 2004. So very quickly, he went right on into it. Let me give you a whole list of these crimes. I think I've given you guys enough trigger warnings at this point, but yeah, here's another one. So we're just going to go through a list of crimes starting in August of 2005. So August 6, 2005 in Phoenix, police say Goudeau forced three teenagers behind a church near Baseline Road and molested two of the girls. On August 14, 2005, there's another sexual assault and a robbery. September 8th, 2005, he had graduated up to homicide. So 19-year-old Georgia Thompson was murdered. She was shot in the head in the parking lot of her apartment complex. And a witness actually overheard this interaction of Miss Thompson saying or telling someone to leave her alone, followed by a loud bang that sounded either like a backfire from a vehicle or a gunshot. So she was found in the parking lot, shot in the head, unfortunately. And later, Goudeau did describe this as she was trying to rob him. So he tried to claim self-defense on that one. Yeah, he's brilliant, isn't he? It's just gem. So September 15th, 2005, another sexual assault. September 20th, 2005, another sexual assault. This was from two sisters, one who was very visibly pregnant, and he instructed them to strip naked and then raped the younger sister while making the older sister watch and also holding a gun to her pregnant belly. So yeah, this case is one of the most important ones here. Not saying that any of the others are not important, just most of the evidence comes out of this case alone. So yeah, the police took two swabs for DNA, one of which showed nothing, but the second was originally actually mishandled and really put a dent in catching him. So we'll get back to that DNA swab, but just remember, this is going to be a really important incident. But then the next one, only 8 days later, September 28th, 2005, two robberies, one including a sexual assault. November 3rd, 2005, another combination robbery and sexual assault. The robbery had actually occurred at 8:01 p.m. and it was described as a man with dreadlocks, which later we find out is a dreadlock wig, a fisherman's hat, and he robbed the shop owner at gunpoint for only $720. He then left the scene And by 8:10, he had abducted a young woman across the street and forced her to drive, where he sexually assaulted her in her car, demanded that he drive him, or that she drive him to the corner because he needed to dump the current disguise he was wearing in a donation bin. And he then switched from his dreadlock wig, fisherman's hat, into a Halloween costume, including black plastic glasses. Then November 7th, 2005, and please notice these dates, they are back to back, November 3rd to November 7th, 4 days apart. All right. So he committed a string of robberies, and this occurred starting with 4 people at gunpoint outside the Las Brasas Mexican restaurant. He then went next door to Little Caesars and robbed 3 people inside. And immediately before entering Little Caesars, he actually robbed 4 people outside on the street and got away with a total of $463. And not only that, but he fired around into the air as he fled like it's the Old West. I know it's Arizona, but it's not the Old West. Stop it. December 12th, 2005, another homicide. Tina Washington, she was 39. She was on her way home from the preschool where she worked, and Goudeau shot her right in the head. And so, yeah, it's really unfortunate. But a witness did spot a man with a drawn gun standing over her body behind the fast food restaurant where she was found. So again, there are witnesses. Like, people are seeing this happen. That's where they got the description. That's where they got the sketch, which I will also post on Instagram. It's just unfortunate that he was just going and didn't get caught as quickly as he should have been. But let's see, December 13th, so 1 day apart, committed another robbery where a young woman was robbed. February 20th, 2006. So there's actually a couple months in between this one. This seems to be the longest time in between, at least the ones that he was linked to. So it was another 2 homicides, this time being 38-year-old Ramelia Vargas and 34-year-old Mirna Palma Roman. I hope I'm saying those names right. I'm really sorry if I'm not. But their bodies were found shot to death inside their snack truck, which they worked. Initially, the police actually didn't make the connection to the baseline killer. The police believed that the murders were actually drug related, and they weren't officially linked until July of 2006. So a few months from when it actually happened. March 15th, 2006, another 2 homicides. So 2 employees of the Yoshi's restaurant on 24th Street in Indian School, they were on their way home. So the 2 victims were actually coworkers, and this is where the one man comes in that was murdered. He was offering his coworker a ride home, and they were both found by Goudeau, unfortunately. So they were on their way home in the same vehicle, and Liliana Sanchez Cabrera, 20 years old, was found dead in the parking lot of another fast food restaurant, and the body of Chow Chu was discovered about a mile away. It was his car. He was the one that had offered Liliana a ride home. So they were both found shot in the head. Again, this seems to be his MO. Then we go to March 29th, 2006. It's another homicide where a body was discovered, again on 24th Street. And a man had actually noticed streaks of blood in the parking lot. Police were called, but apparently not a thorough enough search of this area was done, because it took until a week later where the man, he was investigating a terrible smell. Police were called back out, where they found the badly decomposed body of Kirsten Nicole Gibbons. So again, she'd been shot in the head. And it seems like from his crimes, by the time it started more with sexual assaults and then graduated to murder. Now he's doing double homicides and seems to be killing almost every one of his victims, unfortunately. So May 1st, 2006, a man in a Halloween mask abducted a woman and sexually assaulted her at gunpoint. She was taken from outside the same restaurant where the November 7th, 2005 crimes occurred. So going back to that November 7th, that was where the string of robberies occurred. So that Mexican restaurant, Little Caesars, so right outside that same area. And yeah, May 5th, so 4 days. Phoenix police went public with a list of 18 crimes that they believed were linked to the baseline killer at this point. And the number had since risen to 23 as of August 2nd, 2006. So he's just, yeah, God, I hate this guy. I hate him so much. So June 29th, 2006, this was his last crime that he committed. Thank goodness, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm done with this list, right? So that was Carmen Miranda. She was 37. She was abducted from a self-serve car wash while she was on her cell phone. So unfortunately, he took advantage of her being slightly distracted, pulled her out of her car, and she was found dead from a gunshot to the head behind the barbershop that was only about 100 yards away. So, and that was while police were in the area searching for her, because this was all captured on the car wash's cameras. They saw her being pulled out of her car. They called the police. They were searching the area, and he shot her only 100 yards away. Yeah, terrible, terrible guy. I hate this guy. Hope you guys do too. I don't know. But Phoenix police had no leads, and they were getting hundreds of tips a day. Like I said, this went on for almost a year. They were wanting to catch him bad. Even offered I want to say it was $100,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest. They were desperate to catch this guy. And they were able to narrow it down to about 10 viable suspects. And that's when they finally linked it to Mark Goudeau. Yeah. So he was a parolee, like I said, in the Phoenix area who matched the release sketch and had a similar history. Like I said, that those two crimes were the one that actually sent him to jail for 13 years. And then the previous one that was right out of high school. So they saw the similarities, thank goodness. So he was arrested on September 4th of 2006 for his connection to the sexual assault of the two Phoenix sisters. Remember, I said this would be the big case for this one. So this was the main case that was linked to him, and that was because of the DNA evidence. And I know I said the second one was mishandled, but the second swab is actually the one they were able to connect to him, which they had about 9 months prior to actually arresting him. So take what you will from that. Yeah. So it was finally linked to him, and they arrested him. Thank goodness. So parole officers were able to search his apartment and found a ski mask. Like I said, he's fond of these disguises, but also a very realistic toy handgun. So this led to a warrant where police were able to actually fully search his apartment, not just the parole officer, but they found things that were linking him to other crimes, including a pair of shoes that had DNA of two victims on them, one being Chow, yes. So that was from the restaurant, the one man that was killed. They found DNA, they found blood on his shoes, even after Goudeau had tried to clean them. So yeah, never gonna get it out. We're gonna find you. Yeah, God. So by September 7th, 2007, he was tried and convicted of all 19 charges related to the attack on the two sisters. So the sentencing that he currently has is actually only the sentencing based on the crimes committed against the two sisters. And he got a total of 438 years in prison for that one sexual assault. So he's not getting out. He's actually, yeah, we'll get more into that, but he's not getting out. He cannot be a model inmate anymore because we all know the truth. October 31st, 2011, He was found guilty of all the baseline killer murders and all other related charges, except for 3 counts of robbery and 1 of the kidnappings. They couldn't link him officially. So, yeah, they got him. So November 30th of 2011, he was sentenced to death on murder charges from the baseline killings as well, and he is currently waiting execution. That date, I tried to look it up for you guys, but it doesn't look like there is an official date for his execution, so he is awaiting that. The last update that I could find was June 2016, when a unanimous vote by the Arizona Supreme Court rejected Goudeau's appeal. Thank goodness, unanimously. They were just like, no, thank you, no. So, like I said, he remains on death row at this point. So during his trial, he had 2 of his siblings and 2 of his nieces show up in court. His wife also saying he's completely innocent. He would never do those. You can actually find the interviews with his wife crying, saying there's no way her husband could have done this. And it's just absolutely amazing to me that she could still have this belief. He was linked by DNA. The shell casings at the scene matched. Like there's no doubt that he committed these crimes at this point. So while I feel bad that she's this far in denial, he's linked. So we know who did it. Just stop. Well, like I said, this one was a tough one. I hope you guys at least enjoyed the episode as much as you could, but this gem of a human being will remain in prison and shall stay there. Thank goodness, because what an asshole. Anyways, this is the end of episode 2. Come back next week where we will be describing a conspiracy theory, probably one of my favorite topics. And I'm going to just hope to open your mind, and yeah, it should be interesting. So come back next week. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.